Hello, welcome to the Devlin Bishop Show. And yes, we got another episode lined up for you. And here is Corda. And we have got a great show lined up for you. I always say we have a great show lined up, especially when we have a guest today. And I will introduce him in a minute. How are you doing today, Corda?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I've been a little off the last couple of days. And usually when I'm off, I usually grab the blanket, put some old movies on or something. And I did a little bit about that, but yesterday I actually did something different. I had a project I've been putting off for the longest time. And I thought, you know what, I'm already kind of in a, not really depressed mood, just kind of a mood, like a low energy we'll go with.
Yeah.
And so I decided to get some grouting done. And so I went into my bathtub, I went and got some bleach and some baking soda, and I did my grouting. I thought it would take a lot longer, but I was very happy with the results. And I love that the smell of chlorine now, every time I come into the bathroom, it's like I'm at the pool.
Nice.
So it did help take my mind off things. And then I probably laid with a blanket and watched movies and stuff. And I remind people that, yeah, it's sometimes good to just sit back and do nothing, but sometimes, working on that project you put aside for the longest time. So, that kind of helped a little bit. And I'm in a good mood today because I get to hang out with you and my guest. And we won't leave him waiting too long. Now, I'll warn you, we may have some glitches. Owen is using his phone and there might be a little bit of a delay. So we might need a moment to get used to that. But I'm sure we're going to make up with it with all the fun we're going to be talking about. So let's bring him in. My guest today is Mr. Owen Robinson.
Okay.
And let's get him in here as we retrieve him. That was him for a second. There he is. Oh, he's sideways now. He's become a very extreme Batman villain.
You said there could be glitches.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's
see if I can.
Can we fix that? Yeah, there we go. I love phones when they do that.
Did we lose him? Sort of?
We may have lost
I can't
him. This will take a minute. I promised you glitches. I always give what I say we're going to do. There he is. He's right side up again.
Hey, you warned me ahead of time.
Yes. But you know what, Owen? I know you like to make a dramatic opening. And how much more dramatic than sideways?
Well,
How are you doing today? Sorry, we didn't hear that. What did you say? You back?
Somebody's working on it. I've lost you.
You're kind of moving again.
I never left.
Yeah. No, we didn't think you did. He just put that cardboard cutout of himself that he has, that life-size one. He keeps in the... All right, we good?
You'd be surprised, actually.
Oh, do you have a cardboard cutout of yourself?
No, I actually don't. But I've wanted one for years just for the laugh of it.
I think that's everybody's secret dream. I certainly would. I did a show once, the Devlin monologues. No, it was the Devlin show, I think. Anyhow, it doesn't matter, but my producer made this giant poster of my face, and I wasn't used to seeing it at the staircase. It was just odd to walk in every time, and my face took up the whole thing. Corda had it on her wall for the longest time, but I think her daughter made her get rid of it. What was that?
I still have it. It's just not on the wall anymore.
It's in her bedroom, don't. Are you still there, Owen? We got a freeze frame of you. Is he voguing?
I'm sure.
I can't even hear a word you said. It totally glitched on me.
All right, we're gonna have some issues today.
Oh, no.
Are you okay now? Do you hear me now?
I'm fine. Yeah, I can hear you fine.
All
You
right.
just pixelated a little bit, but that's not my problem.
No, that's just a bizarre thing that happens. It's weird. I become Satan or something for a minute, like, ooh. Well, this is a great Christmas episode. Talking about Satan. All right, are you still there, Owen? We have your
You,
picture,
by
but
the way.
pardon?
See, we're gonna have a little trouble with this. I can tell. It's all right.
Yes.
All right. If you
All
want to do a
right.
Christmas episode with Satan, we can do that. Yeah. I've been watching that. What's it? The Witches one that was based the sort of 20-something movie that was based on the old 60s TV show with the witches.
Bewitched.
Yeah.
That's a
I
good
understand
Christmas.
there's a spin-off now. Well, not spin-off, but a modern remake where they're actually Satanists.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
never knew that. I never knew they remade Bewitched.
Well, remade is an interesting term for this, but
Well, I avoided that original movie
yeah,
because the
they
concept,
actually worship Satan.
the concept of that Will Ferrell, Nicole Kidman movie was odd because didn't they play like actors playing people?
I never saw that.
Yeah. No. So why are we talking about this movie? Go watch the original Bewitched.
Getting away.
The original Bewitched
Yeah, the
did have
TV show I
some,
remember.
yeah, the original
Implicated.
Bewitched is pretty lighthearted, but there is a couple of episodes that go very dark, but as dark as you could for a 60s sitcom. But
Very.
every once in a while I see an episode like I'm like, really?
Yeah, I think the one we're talking about is on Netflix,
Yeah.
which is a nice segue into what we're going to talk about.
Right. And what we're going to talk about, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but Warner Brothers is playing with movies again. And after the big surprise announcement that Wonder Woman 1984 was going to be going to HBO Max on the same day it hits theaters, a couple of days later, they announced that their whole 2021 lineup is now going to play in theaters, but in America, you're going to get them all on HBO Max. And no surprise, HBO Max is getting a lot of subscriptions because we're now talking about not just Wonder Woman 1984, we're talking about Dune, Suicide Squad, we're talking about Godzilla versus King Kong, The Conjuring 3, like there's 17 movies, I believe, in this. And it's got everybody really in an uproar, not only movie fans.
Mhm.
Actually, a lot of movie fans are like, wait, I get to see it for free for 30 days.
Of New York.
Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, I was saying some New York.
Okay, so welcome back. We had some technical difficulties, but Corda thinks she's figured it out. Unfortunately, we've lost Corda. She did that on purpose. She didn't want to be on here anyhow. You know her. She's always trying to get out of doing this. But we have the audio with Owen, and unfortunately, that means we don't have his video. But we want to hear what he has to say. So, Owen, are you still there?
Yep, still hanging in here.
And we're not cutting out in any way?
No, there's a little bit of distortion, but that's it.
Okay. Well, we'll keep trying with this because we really want Owen to be a guest. We have tried this a couple times. We tried a podcast. We've now tried this show, but we're going to make it through this show. So we were talking about the Warner Brothers. What are your initial thoughts about them putting everything on HBO Max? Now, this is only in the States. This doesn't affect Canada or anywhere in the world.
Else.
But since the States is the biggest place that you can make money on movies, it's pretty huge. But we got to keep in mind there's a lot of places in the States that still don't have movie theaters open, including the two biggest, which is Los Angeles and New York City. So what are your initial thoughts when Warner Brothers announced this?
Well, first off, Warner Brothers, and particularly AT&T, who owns Warner Brothers, seem pretty desperate to get HBO Max to matter. Like it's been a sort of third tier streaming service, and this seems a move directed to try and get people onto this thing. Don't know how effective it's going to be in the long term, because at some point, I mean, the beer bug's going to go away, and people are going to go back to their lives, and they're not going to be wanting to sit and watch TV the same way. Personally, I'm not a fan of streaming services. I should get that out there.
No, absolutely.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous because they're getting so expensive. You might as well have cable.
Well, this is what I tell people, and they just kind of look at me like, no. But then I talk to other people, and they're like, yeah. Everybody was so proud when they were getting rid of their cable and stuff, and now everybody's buying streaming services, which is the new cable.
Yeah.
Like, basically, yes, you're buying what you want, but at the same time, you have no control of what they're giving you. They're just basically, okay, we're going to have this movie on this month. Next month, it might not be on.
Yeah.
So you're technically got cable again. You're just calling it streaming service.
Yeah. And the thing is, what we haven't got to yet is the bundling of it. And I think that's going to come at some point.
Yeah, I think there's little things. Like, I think Disney Plus, you get like Hulu and a couple of sports stations, but I think you're going to see more of that. Yeah, I think you're going to see more of that. Now, the initial thing, HBO Max, no surprise, lots of subscriptions coming out.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and that's what they want. And as much as the first thing I think of is the end of the movie-going experience. That is my fear, because I'm already dealing with my anxieties with the end of like actual media, like actual DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff in my hand. And we know that's coming soon. But now the thought that we could be seeing the end of big movie chains and even little independent houses really bothers me. But I understand why they're doing it, because right now Disney is putting everything into streaming, because they're making so much money, because Disney owns pretty much everything they have on streaming, where Warner Brothers does not. They actually have to bring stuff in. Netflix does not, but Netflix is in a good spot that they're getting to that point. They're losing some of their top shows at the end. I would
agree.
Yeah, like I think The Office, which is, believe it or not, Office and Friends are some of the biggest watched things on Netflix. Well, they're going to be going to other stations because they now have streaming sites. The Office is leaving at the end of the year, and they're going wherever they're. I don't know if it's the Peacock network. I don't know. I'll be honest. I have one.
ABC is essentially the Peacock network is essentially Disney.
Right, and I believe
I remember, because as I recall, Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think Friends is a Warner Brothers, if I recall, which means as soon as the Netflix contract's over, that's going to HBO Max, right? That's going to go to HBO Max. So, because they're going to want all their content. That's, just how it is. So, and I will speak to, I am not a fan of streaming services. The only one I use is the Roku channel, which is free. That's the only streaming channel I own. So I think Corda does have Disney Plus.
I have Disney Plus, yeah. That's pretty good.
The problem with Disney Plus.
Go on. Owen?
Oh, sorry, I don't have Disney Plus. No, my problem with Disney Plus is that, it's pretty much The Mandalorian, and there's really not that much new content on there. WandaVision's supposed to be starting up, but a lot of the other content that I've been hearing about, I'm like, do I really care about a post-traumatic stress suffering Obi-Wan in the desert? No, I'm sorry.
No.
That just doesn't grab me as a show.
Yeah, they'll probably have another bump in subscribers when those the MCU shows come out, like WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and stuff like that. But when The Mandalorian isn't playing, do you know what their most watched show on that is?
No, I have no idea.
The Simpsons.
You're kidding me.
No, because they own 20th Century Fox, they put
Yeah.
The Simpsons on there, and The Simpsons is always at number one until The Mandalorian shows up.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is I've heard they're looking at doing a Disney Plus 18 plus.
They have to because
They can't put aliens on there, or
they've got all these Fox movies that are R-rated or questionable because Disney is not going to change their brand.
no, even though they put Mulan on there. But hey, whatever.
Right. But that's not an adult film. It's
No, not really.
Like you're not going to see, like as you said, Alien or Aliens or some of the other Fight Club, 20th Century Fox movies that are edgy.
Predator.
To be honest with you, I'm actually surprised The Simpsons is on there because they got kind of a little raunchy there when Family Guy started. They kind of had to compete, and some of their
but Disney's cut some of those episodes out. I understand.
Wow. So for me, this is a big, scary move, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll find out a little bit on Thursday because Disney has their big corporate meeting, and Warner Brothers has just played a huge hand. Like right now, everybody's talking about Disney Plus, and like within the course of a couple of weeks ago, everybody's talking about Warner Brothers now.
Yeah. This third tier, streaming service, which now is, going to have all this, first run material on it.
And I like how Warner Brothers is doing all this spinning about how, no, it's going to help everyone, including the movie theaters. But
it says it kills DC Comics.
Well, comics are on their way out too, they've said. They think that comics are going to become all totally online within a year or two because comics are suffering too, for all different kinds of reasons. But it'll be interesting. Like, right now I don't feel comfortable going to the movie theater. I have gone during the pandemic, but I don't know when I'll get to see Wonder Woman 1984. And there are some of those movies on that lineup that I do want to see in theaters, like Dune. I want to see that. I want to see Godzilla versus King Kong. I don't want to see like a little chimpanzee and a lizard, which would be on my screen. I want to see them on the big screen fighting.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, and so
I want to go see.
And we're in Canada, so hopefully by that time the vaccine will have come out. We'll start seeing some changes and we'll be able to see it at the theaters. But I still worry that this is going to be a thing because I think streaming sites are now what everybody is hoping to put their money into. And AT&T, like you said, they need the money, and Disney has lost so much money on theme parks, movie theaters, that they have basically told everyone we are putting everything into streaming right now.
Yeah.
And it looks like Warner's is following suit. Now, there is an interesting part. I don't know if you've heard the latest news, Owen, but it looks like some of the filmmakers did not get told about this, that Warner Brothers is doing this. So people who spent the majority of the money on these movies didn't have a say in this. And Legendary Pictures, who owns the rights, they own the rights to Dune and Godzilla versus King Kong, have said, we've put up 75% of the money and we want it exclusively in theaters to start.
Good.
And there's talks of lawsuits now.
The great American pastime.
Yes. And one of Warner Brothers' biggest people was Chris Nolan, and he has now come out and said that he's really disappointed of this decision because Chris Nolan's all about the movie-going experience.
Yes.
I did not go to see Tenet, but Tenet was one of the only really big movies to come out this year. And it did okay money, but because it was so expensive, it probably lost a good chunk of what it would have made in normal times. So it was a big risk, but it looks like it scared a lot of people.
Yeah.
Other theaters were just like, oh, okay, that's nice. Tenet made
I've heard mixed reviews of it myself.
see, it didn't help that. I don't think that helped it either, because usually everybody's like, oh, Chris Nolan, he can do no wrong. But when you get polarizing reviews, some people said it was okay. Some people said, yeah, I don't want to see it over and over again. Those are things you don't want to hear.
Yeah, a friend, yeah.
You know,
A friend of mine saw it. He loved it. He thought it was great. Another friend of mine went. He fell asleep in it. He's like, "This is so boring."
well, it wasn't enough to get me out to theaters. I have been to theaters. I went to see older movies or independent movies, but Tenet wasn't enough of a draw to get me there. I like Chris Nolan's movies, but I'm not like a diehard. Like I have to see all his movies. I will see it eventually, I'm sure. It'll be interesting. I'm actually interested to see how the Blu-ray and the DVD will do. It comes out next week, because I think it'll actually sell pretty well, because people, with Christmas coming up, and it's like, I didn't get to see it in theaters.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think people will buy it, and maybe that means we might see a little bit of hope for the home box office when people are buying stuff. Are you a movie collector?
I am. I have a huge movie collection, which I feel has paid for itself time and time again. I'm a huge supporter of physical media, because at the end of the day, I want to watch what I want to watch when I want to watch it. And like for years, we've had a movie channel when we were big into cable, and one of the problems back then was you didn't have the video on demand services. And then
We're losing
service, but they didn't put all the materials a month on some networks. And I'm just like, if I want to sit down and watch like Argo or something, or one of the Sherlock Holmes movies with, let's just put them on.
Yeah. It's to me, if you're a movie fan, the ultimate streaming system is like, as you can see in the back here, I have a ton of movies, and there's more on this side. There's more in the other room. It's the ultimate streaming site. You want to watch, Sound of Music in the middle of the summer, go put it on. So, yeah. So right now,
you want to watch The Godfather, or Green Mile, things like that.
Yeah, and like just whatever.
Just
like,
put them on.
And I love getting movies that are rare, because I'm actually at the point when I go to a used store and I pick up an old movie that it's like, God, I heard this was horrible, but I'll pick it up now, because it's like, well, what if I finally see it and I love it? I'm gonna,
Oh yeah. Besides, half the time you find they're like $5 or less in a bargain bin, and you're like, sure, what the heck, I can afford to splurge on that.
Absolutely. So now we just have to hope they keep making like Blu-ray players and stuff like that. So, because I know a couple people have stopped making them.
Yeah, because I'd hate to have to go and buy a bunch and keep them in a box for the next few decades.
Well, you know what? I work at a secondhand store. I don't want to give its name away, but we get a lot of people that keep buying VCRs. They keep buying VCRs, and we have an adamant group of people who still buy VHS.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, it's not just the people collecting vinyl now. There's a lot of VHS collectors.
I don't buy them, but I still have them. I'm not really.
Yeah, I don't have.
Yeah, I still have a bunch of movies on.
I think I have a couple that are like maybe collectibles or something, and I kept them, but I don't have a VCR. But it's amazing how many people can just whip out a VCR. And whenever we put a new one on the floor, it's sold probably within an hour or two. So, yeah, so I'm a little worried.
I didn't even know they were still making them.
Well, they're not. These are just old ones that people are getting rid of and stuff. But people are like hoarding their VHS players. So whenever we get one used at the thing, people will try to fix it and stuff. So I'm a little worried for movie theaters. I know some people who own independent theaters, and I don't think they're the biggest fan of this. So we'll have to see how this plays out, because this could be I think it's going to be initial boost to Warner Brothers and HBO Max, but we'll have to see what this effect is going to have on Hollywood, because you're going to eventually see it trickle down. You there, Owen?
Hollywood's having a lot of hits right now. Like, I mean, when I mean hits, I mean like financial hits and
Yeah, big.
things like that, and not successful moving around. And there's going to have to be a lot of restructuring coming at some point, because they're not going to be able to run things the way they used to. And like the money's just not there. So like people like Jim Carrey who show up and demand 13 to do, we're like, sorry, pal.
Yeah,
So
this.
I think we'll
I
see
think,
changes like that.
but I think this is going to be everywhere. Like I think Hollywood we're going to see it because we're talking about it, but I think you're going to start seeing it everywhere. The effects on this pandemic, and not always going to be good
Yes.
stories for everybody. So
No,
before we get too doom and gloom, before we get before we get too doom and gloom, why don't we talk about our next topic? It's a fun one. Owen and I had a conversation a little while ago, and I thought it was a good enough conversation to talk about online because we remembered, this is like a couple of old guys talking now, and I will say I am older than Owen, so he's not as old as me. But we talked about how they don't really make. Pardon?
Thanks for the save there.
No, I just want.
Kidding.
Well, I'm throwing us under the bus, calling us old, but I want people to know that I'm a lot older. But we talked about how they don't really make a lot of old-fashioned adventure movies anymore. They do still show up from time to time, but what we're talking about old adventure movies is kind of like the original Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, just kind of a fun time where you're on the edge of your seat. They kind of feel like those old movie serials like Flash Gordon or Commander Cody. And we talked about this, and I thought, you know what? It's always a good time to watch adventure movies, but around the holidays, for people who are not into the Christmas spirit, an adventure movie is sometimes a good, lighthearted thing to put on. So, what are your initial thoughts when I mention adventure movies, Owen?
Well, the first one, it actually goes immediately to one of my secret passions, which is really sort of this very B movie, but Alan Quartermain and the Lost City of Gold is a good example of that. This is a Richard Chamberlain film.
I thought I saw it, but I don't know if I have. So I would like to get my. This is definitely.
It's actually the sequel. Yeah, it's actually a sequel to King Solomon's Mines, but it actually has it's a B grade film with an A cast. Sharon Stone's in it. James Earl Jones is in it.
Now this is Sharon Stone pre-Beaver shot, right?
Yes.
So she wasn't.
This film was 86. Well,
no offense to Sharon Stone, but she didn't get A-list until she crossed her legs.
Yes, which I believe is 3 years after this film was released. But it's just a fun adventure film. It's Alan Quartermain. So for those familiar with Alan Quartermain, it's all adventure all the time. But this one in particular, I think, does an excellent job of being that. As opposed to the first one, which in some respect was a little more silly. Now, this is an 80s film, so, some of the special effects are a little, all right. But it's fun.
At best.
You got to have fun movies like yeah. Well, you'll see when you're in a certain cave and certain monsters appear, and you're like, oh dear.
I like that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff.
You'll enjoy this.
I'll have to look into it. And one of the ones I mentioned is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I think this was actually what led us to talk to the thing. And I love that so many people love this movie because it is such a fun movie. Like, yes, Kevin Costner doesn't hold his English accent. Yes, there's a little bit of contemporary stuff going on in here, but it is such a great story. It's a lot of fun. I smile all the way through it. And it feels like, let's take Robin Hood and put him kind of into an Indiana Jones, Alan Quartermain kind of way, and I think it's a success because of that.
Yeah,
Lots of-
I would agree with you. I would
And I
completely
think-
agree with you.
And I think humor is a big part of it too.
Yes.
Like
Yes, I agree with you on that. I find myself thinking of The Mask of Zorro with Antonio Banderas
yes,
and David Jones. One of the key elements of that movie is the humor that's in it.
right,
There's a tongue-in-cheekness to certain scenes, and they pull it off. And it's still a great adventure film.
right.
You're cheering on Zorro as he's riding around on his horse with the sword.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is that's the kind of thing you want.
And that's a movie I haven't thought about in a long time. And I know I saw both of them in the theaters because there was a sequel.
Yeah, the sequel is a lesser sequel in my opinion. Well, it tries to do certain things in the plot that you're just sitting there going, uh-huh. So it's the 1850s and Catherine Zeta-Jones wants a divorce. What?
Yeah. That maybe we didn't see a third one for that reason. Maybe it didn't do quite as well.
Even legal then?
Yeah, I was trying to think. I was trying to think of more closer to modern adventure films, and we do still see them. And I might be in the wrong here, but I would put the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies in there.
They're fun, but sorry,
they're also
Star Trek.
They're adventurous and action packed.
They are adventure. I will.
Oh, we're losing you. You there, Owen?
I will go on that. Even if
we're losing your audio. His sarcastic laugh knocked it out of whack. It says he's talking, but I don't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're not hearing anything, Owen. I think we have another technical difficulty coming up.
Yeah, I think so.
Get the music ready.
Oh, he logged right off. Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we didn't hear anything you said about Star Trek.
Okay. I was joking that I agree with you. I spoke ill of J.J. Abrams. They cut me off. Anyway.
No problem.
They are adventure. I don't know if you can hear you.
You're cutting out a little bit.
Okay.
That sounded okay.
I'll just sum it up. They are good adventure films. They're fun. You go to the movie theater, you eat your popcorn. Those are the kinds those are. I try to think of modern ones, and I do agree that some of the Marvel films have been that way. Like the Avengers films were modern and that were.
I think some of the Marvel ones are. I do think some of the Marvel ones are. No, we've lost you again.
In America.
Sorry, could you repeat that? We lost you again there. Yeah, your audio is totally gone.
Oh, crud.
You want to
Taken?
reboot?
You want to remember Taken?
Well, we'll just continue, but do you want to reboot it or something?
I guess he did. There it is.
Oh my God. We're back again.
Yeah, I heard that. It's kind of when you start talking along. Say something.
Hello, world.
Okay, we heard hello world, but not what you said before that.
J.J. Abrams isn't as good as he thinks he is.
Okay. We got that. Okay.
Well,
That was a maniacal laugh. We're not hearing you at all. We hear this wicked laugh every once in a while.
Okay, this is at the end of a comment that I'm trying to be funny about, but it doesn't work because you're only hearing the laugh, not the joke.
Yeah, we're hearing the laugh, so it sounds like you're going insane. I love it.
Yeah.
Again, we didn't hear you, just the laugh.
Technology, it frustrates me. It frustrates me so.
Okay, we heard that beautifully.
Okay, I'm not going to laugh. I'm just going to talk straight. Okay.
I figure you're weird.
That's great. I'm
laugh.
glad to hear that the sound problem seems to have been improved.
It has. Corda likes editing. She's got a lot of editing on this one ahead of her.
It looks like it's going to be that case.
Okay, so what was your comment about J.J. Abrams?
Aside from the fact that I don't particularly like him, he at least knows how to put people into the movie experience. You'll go in, you'll buy a ticket, you'll go see his film, you'll get your popcorn, you'll have your money's worth, and then you'll leave.
Yeah.
That's as much as I can say about him. I don't think any of his films are particularly enduring.
All right, that's cool. I think he's hit and miss with me. I do actually really like a lot of his movies, but I admit he has lots of flaws in them, and but he does know, as you're saying, the basics of how to put together an entertaining movie, but he might not know how to necessarily put it all together. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Yeah.
Like he has problems with, like, for my problem is that he seems to always, like, I was upset that he left the Star Trek franchise at the third one, but that being said, I actually liked the third movie in the series. And then
I did too. That was actually the one I liked the best.
Yeah, and I love the first one. That actually, I'm not the biggest Star Trek fan. I like some of the original, and I've seen most of Next Generation, and I've seen 4 of the movies before J.J. Abrams. But Star Trek, the one they made with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto, I became a huge fan of that. I just thought it's up in my top 20 movies of all time, and I didn't hate the second one as much as everybody else, but I thought the third one was actually really well put together. But I find they are adventure films, because the original Star Trek movies are more definitely sci-fi.
Oh yeah, they're not adventure films. That's very true.
No.
Maybe the Borg one with the Next Generation cast. That was pretty. I was pretty adventure.
Yeah, I stopped after the 4th one, which was everybody's kind of favorite, and I actually.
Oh, the whales.
I hated that. Oh.
The whales.
I know. I just
it's
hated
the largest
the
commercial
movie.
success of all the films.
The 4th movie kept me away from all the other ones. I was just like, yeah, I'm not a big Star Trek fan. I'm not. I had to put up with the whales. And it's, first of all, no hate mail. I like whales. I like Free Willy. I just didn't need to see Spock swimming with them.
Well, the thing is, you missed Star Trek V, which is The Search for God. So you could be forgiven for missing that one.
Oh, okay, so I probably would have liked that one, knowing my taste, but you never know. Did Kirk swim with God?
No, he didn't.
Yeah, I would have. See, now if you just told me that, I would have been going to buy that one immediately.
I think everyone was swimming in something, but I'm not going to tell you.
So we know that Indiana Jones is probably the granddaddy of all the adventure films. And
yes.
In my opinion, they're
yes.
a lot of fun.
The original trilogy, there is nothing wrong with it.
See, I don't mind the fourth one.
I don't mind the fourth one either.
Yeah.
It's just, I think they were trying too hard. And it was during the period when George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were so obsessed with special effects being in it. And I
Yeah.
think that, like, the whole monkey scene with Shia LaBeouf, you're like, come on.
Yeah, well, I'm a big Shia fan, and I know that was silly, but no sillier than some of the other stuff that we've seen in, Raiders of the Lost Ark and stuff like that. But okay, maybe, yeah, definitely more silly. But I just think the problem is that I think Stephen and George are such good friends that I think Stephen has problems telling George, this doesn't seem to work.
Yeah.
Do you think so? Like, I think
I think so too. They have they have this lifelong friendship, seems, and they just like, all right, I'll let you get away with this.
I get the feeling that George Lucas is somebody he's hard to like tell anything to. Like, one of my favorite, there was a documentary called Star Wait. I don't know if you ever saw this, but it was following people in line at the Phantom Menace. Oh, no, sorry. It was people waiting in line for Attack of the Clones, I think it was the second one. And they were talking about this fan base. And a couple times they mentioned how everybody was so pissed off at Phantom Menace. But they were still, these fans were in line, okay, they can do better. And there's a scene in it where they actually have George Lucas on the phone, and one of the fans actually talks to him, and he's like, oh, I'm such a fan, I love all your movies. And then he asks George what is his feelings about what fans thought of the Phantom Menace. And that's me on the phone, by the way.
Yes.
Doing some improv there.
That's
and
all right.
George literally just says, yeah, I made the movie I wanted to see. And that was it. There's no apology, like I made a mistake. He goes, no, I did all right. I'm good. I'm good with it. And I just thought, that's so fucking badass. But I thought Stephen probably is kind of like, I'll try to make the monkeys work, George, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, and that is really George Lucas. This is the reason he left Hollywood and set up his own studio, his own production facilities, all this stuff. He's like, I don't want people telling me what to do. I want to do my thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's largely one of the most unique approaches that anybody ever did in Hollywood. That's probably one of the reasons so many in Hollywood didn't like George Lucas.
Yeah, absolutely. But he had loyal friends. He had that group that like there was I think they all went to film school together. There was Francis Ford Coppola and him and Spielberg and a couple of others.
Yeah, Ron Howard later.
Yeah, and I also think George, it's hard for him to lose control of things. I think he truly believed in Kathleen Kennedy when he gave over the Star Wars thing. But I think after he saw that they didn't use, because originally he makes it sound like they kind of agreed to go along with the story he had, and they totally threw that out and just did their own thing.
Well, even Bob Iger admits that they, while there was talk of maybe using them, he made it sound in his biography like, we really mistreated George on this one. We could have handled it better.
Well, say what you want about the prequels. At least the prequels, compared to the J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson sequels,
the heresy,
they had they actually worked on the three stories. They had an arc that they were working from. Even Phantom Menace was working its way to Revenge of the Sith, where Force Awakens, all three of them seem like different movies.
Well, and they admitted, you had Daisy Ridley come out afterwards and say, there was no plan.
There was no plan.
They had people coming down every day to change the script.
And what's sad about it is when I went.
No, it was the sequel trilogy are a disaster.
Well, yeah, I enjoyed two of them, but the first one I thought, wow, if they have an idea for the rest of them, this may be something. Then when the second one came out, we don't even. I had to go to therapy I had to go into therapy for that one. And then the third one I enjoyed, but when I look back at it, it just seems like he just came and went back and tried to fix everything he could, did some fan service, and then like, did we get away with it? And when I look back now at the sequels, now that we can, I just think, you know, there was so much promise there that was just kind of, they just feel kind of weird. And I said, the best thing this did was it made people say, well, you know what, the prequels weren't the greatest, but at least they had a plan.
It's true, though. It's very true.
You know, what I have to say I love about the sequels is that I am a fan of the prequels. I don't love them as much as the original, but I do love that now that the sequels have come out, people are actually finding nice things to say about the prequels. So George kind of won in that aspect because they're like, you know, it makes the sequels make the prequels look like they're masterpieces now. So yeah,
that much is true.
And as I said, I
never
don't
hated
hate on the sequels, but they just kind of just sit there. They have no life to them. But that being said, getting back to our topic, I actually thought Solo was a really good adventure film.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I didn't mind it. I own it, so it's obviously was good enough for me to purchase.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, in my opinion, and I just did a misunderstood movies on this, and I actually mentioned that I think it's the one that feels closest to the original trilogy. Not 100%. It has definitely got its problems, but it feels like that movie lives in that same universe as the original films. To me, at least, and I think it's a fun movie. And again, let's make some popcorn up, get your favorite beverage, and enjoy.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I find Rogue One to be closer in spirit, but I do see what you mean with Solo and the elements of it. I think they did try to put it into that space where the originals are, and I think for a large portion of it they succeeded. Yeah, like every film, there's a few things that you're sitting back going, well, let's just move on back to the story.
See, that's the thing with Rogue One. Rogue One did not feel like a Star Wars movie to me. I enjoyed it, not as much as everybody else, but there were moments that I'm like, this is just a flat out Star Wars war movie. I didn't feel like it had that adventure. I didn't think it had that fun. And I'm still a little ticked that I didn't see the movie that the trailer was telling us we were going to see.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
There is so many awesome scenes that are in that trailer that we did not see, like stormtroopers in the water, not Daisy Ridley. I can't remember the character's name or the actress. But there's a scene where one of the ships comes up while she's like,
the TIE fighter, yeah.
Yes, the TIE fighter. And I just thought, I can't wait to see that when I'm waiting for that scene and you're setting up and it's like, where's my TIE fighters? Where's the ominous ship coming up behind her? And I'm like, even dialogue cut right out of the trailer. And I'm like, I hope we get to see that movie someday because I think I might like it. Yeah, and I wasn't even upset about Grand Moff Tarkin or Princess Leia's,
No, I thought those were done well, actually. I was surprised.
I thought the Princess Leia one was a little jarring, but that was only because she had just passed away.
Yeah.
But I believe the Grand Moff Tarkin ones, I thought they were perfect.
Yeah.
Like when I watched it, I kept thinking, did they actually get an actor that looked like him and then just kind of played with the face a little? Because I actually think they did a tremendous job with that. But
yeah, I agree. That was a particularly good one.
I'll let you mention a couple of adventure films if you have a list. But I want to put one out there. Which is probably going to be a future misunderstood movie. And I've talked with a few people who actually saw it. Now, I don't know if you did, but I want to put The Adventures of Tintin in there.
I didn't actually see that, but I know I saw the trailer. I know a little bit about the film.
I believe, I can't remember if Spielberg directed it or if he just produced it, But I actually thought they captured the adventure really well in this. Like, I don't know the source material. I've always, growing up when I was a little kid, I remember growing up a little bit in Germany, but I was very young. But I remember the Tintin comics being very popular there and books. And even when I got older, I remember our public library had some Tintin stuff, but it was nothing but when I went to see that at the theater, I just felt it was a really well put together movie. And I thought it was a nice adventure for kids and families. And I know a couple of dads who were like, yeah, I like taking my kid to that one because that was like an old fashioned adventure. But I strongly recommend it for you if you feel like a nice animated film. And I think it's one you can find in the cheap places now. Are you there, Owen?
Well, you gotta have these sort of adventures for kids, because they need to have something to ease them into more exciting adult adventures later.
Yeah.
Like I remember younger things when they did G.I. Joe the movie, Transformers the movie. They did the Batman animated series, which came after the success of the original Batman movie with Michael Keaton.
Mm-hmm.
Still one of the best adventure movies out there.
Yeah. The Keaton Batman?
Yeah.
You know what? This is when the Nolan series ended, my dream, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate on this, was that they were going to announce that they were going to start continuing the Tim Burton, Joel Schumacher series, which is casting new Batmans and stuff. Just because even though I don't like Batman and Robin,
no one does.
but I'll still watch
Even
it.
George Clooney doesn't.
Yeah, no, he apologized long ago, and it wasn't his fault. That's probably the Batman movie where Batman does nothing in it, really.
Yeah. When Arnold Schwarzenegger is the big draw for that film, yeah.
But you know what? I still will put that movie on and still laugh and cringe, and because they are fun adventures, and it reminded me of a time. See, the thing with the MCU movies is I love them a lot, but I feel they're made for adults because adults have taken them as their own. Yes, they take their kids, but when the Batman series with the Tim Burton and the Joel Schumacher came out, these were triggered for family audiences. McDonald's Happy Meals had little, Riddlers and Jokers and stuff.
My brother was 9 when he saw that film.
Was he?
Yeah, when the first one came out, he was 9.
See, that's a movie-going experience. I remember waiting in line for so long seeing Batman, and then finally seeing it and just mind blown because we haven't seen. See, now every week we get something new, whether it's a TV show or something with superheroes. But people forget that back then we didn't have a lot of movies. No,
and especially with Batman, we hadn't had anything since the 60s.
Right. And before Batman 89, we had the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and that was a decade beforehand. That was, and we're talking some of the third and fourth one there we don't even like to speak of. But
oh yeah, Nuclear Man.
Quest for Peace. I always tell Damien that I want to show him those early Superman, and he's like, look, you got me into Superman with Man of Steel. I don't think I can handle those. I go, I know you can't handle those, but I need you to see that this was the only superhero movie at the time.
We'll show him the first two, because these the first two are solid. Yeah. They're good, especially if you get the alternate version of the second film.
I haven't seen that yet, but I want to see that.
I should loan it to you. It's really good, because they got the original director to come back, and he fixed so many things that the replacement director did in the second film, and just like, wow.
And you know what's funny about that is that the Superman 2 that they released in theaters is actually still a pretty good movie.
Oh yeah, it is.
So if I would say it's pretty close to the first one, but you know how that all transpired, don't you? When they went into that first movie, they were filming both movies.
Yeah, side by side.
And what happened was Warner Brothers back to Warner Brothers, decided they actually didn't like that director because he was too much of a perfectionist. So they fired him with the second movie. So the ending that we actually get in the first Superman movie is actually supposed to be the ending of the second Superman movie.
Really? I didn't know.
Yes, but they wanted a bigger ending for the first movie, so it made him have to move that to the front. And basically, it's interesting. If you ever get to watch a documentary on it, it's very interesting. And then they brought the guy who made Hard Day's Night by the Beatles and said, "Yeah,
Yes, that's
a movie." And he did a great job.
He couldn't work with Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando hated this guy. He loved
that's
Richard
why Marlon
Donner.
Brando isn't in the second movie.
Yeah.
And that's why people like Margot Kidder didn't want to do it, because they all loved the first director. And so, you know, I think that's why they kind of got punished in later sequels when they weren't in it as much, because it was like, you gave us too much trouble before. But what happened was that director, his name's slipping my mind.
The one who did the first one originally was Richard Donner.
Richard Donner, and then there was Richard Lester.
Lester, yes.
Right. They're very close. I think that helped too. But what I loved about it was that, I did, because I like Superman too, the original.
I do too.
So what he did was, in order to get his name on that movie, he had to film more stuff. Because right now, he was coming to finish it, which means Richard Donner would still get his name on, because back then you could only have one director on it.
Yes.
So he literally made stuff like, you know, peeling off the S and chucking it off.
Yeah. And all the scenes with Kal-El's mother, as opposed to
which when I was a kid, I didn't mind, but when I got older, I was like, why isn't this Marlon Brando? Why is his mother taking over all of a sudden, when the mother didn't even seem she knew what was happening when, you know, they were going to send him to Earth or send him wherever he was going to go. But anyhow, and so he's even said, Richard Lester said, I'm going to film as much as I can to get my name on this. And that's why a lot of his stuff got scrapped. So I'd love to see the director's cut on that. But again, those Superman movies, the early ones, were a lot of fun. They were adventure. And I keep telling younger people, like, the first Superman does have slow bits in it. But we were a different generation back then. They weren't slow. We were just happy to be out in a theater eating popcorn, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we wanted this epic to just go on and on.
Right. When I look back at, I was talking recently to somebody about, when I look back at old movies we watched as kids, how did we get through them? Like, Mary Poppins is a long movie, but we were little kids just watching Mary Poppins, and there's some scenes of Mary Poppins that we don't need as kids. But yet we sat, enjoyed them. We didn't care. What's going on here?
Well, yeah, the 80s had a very strange way of dealing with things, and so did the 70s. But like I always remembered and laughed at, like, I never saw RoboCop until I was a teenager, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But they had a toy line.
Yeah.
They're trying to market RoboCop to kids. None of the kids had seen the movie.
Oh yeah. The first Alien had a toy line, and that was restricted. and a movie that, like, the trailer terrified me of that, and I didn't see that movie until I was older, and I had nightmares from the trailer. And here they are. Here, you can buy the Alien action figure, and it can eat your face and impregnate you.
Oh, the things they tried to do to us as kids.
Simpler times.
Mm-hmm. At least our toys were, you know, higher quality plastic. I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're still around. Except maybe the heads for the He-Man action figures.
Well, the G.I. Joe bodies were like a elastic band, and their legs would come off really fast. I found that out when I went to go get my old action figures out, and all my G.I. Joes were like broken in half, because it was like, oh, maybe the elastic band in between them shouldn't have been a good idea, because it was hardened and stuff. So, but now most of the toys, like, I think kids still buy those toys, but it's mostly adult collectors that buy, like, all the Star Wars.
I know.
But apparently they didn't even sell, so Disney was not happy with how much Force Awakens and stuff they, I think they sold a lot with BB-8, but then it was slowly starting to be like, why are all our Rose Tico
Yes.
dolls still on the shelf and stuff like that?
The character did nothing in the movie.
Oh, she did plenty.
He was there tasering people that tried to defect and leave the
She
ship.
did plenty, but I'm not blaming her. I'm blaming the writer.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Ben
agree
should
with
have
you.
still died. He would have made more of an impact instead of like them having this long romantic scene that isn't romantic. It's just her like, I like you, Finn.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
but what's not
nice.
nice is that like there was all these ships or like the AT-ATs are ready to blow them away. They're in white snow or salt, and she's dragging Finn across this, and nobody can shoot them pinpointed. So they get back to the base, even though when Luke's hologram shows up, and I don't care if it's spoilers, this is Last Jedi. You've probably lived it all.
There's nothing good about it.
But then they can pinpoint Luke's hologram, and everybody shoots all at once. But they couldn't get this woman dragging Finn to the base. Or they snuck. I guess they snuck.
Yeah. Hi. We're not in camouflage or anything. Let's just go against this white background, and we're not white.
Yeah, they shouldn't all go to a smoke break at the same time. Finn had a moment.
Well,
Finn had a moment to become an epic character there, and he got cock blocked by Rose.
Yeah, he really did. This is what Admiral Haldo did earlier, and we were all right with letting her do that, but you won't let me do this?
Yeah, no, I wasn't all right with her doing that either.
No, I wanted Admiral Akbar to do that, but like, who is this person? Where's Admiral Akbar?
Yeah, I know. See, we can't go into Last Jedi because that's a whole show.
No.
Because I'm thinking to myself, the fact that Poe never heard of this person, but this is going to be, Leia's replacement. I'm like, he would have known who this person is. You don't just pick somebody random, like, she's coming over from another. Like, who is this woman? And it's like, the rebels weren't that big anyhow. And you're telling me he's never heard of this woman?
No. And by the way, why didn't she show up in a military uniform? What did she just come from? Did she just come from a dinner party or something? Oh, by the way, it was out raising funds for us over at the Casino World.
It looked good with her purple hair. Good with her purple hair.
Why would her a purple uniform?
Yeah. Anyhow.
Sorry, we could trash this movie till the end of the time.
Yeah. I've tried to learn to
adventure movies. I will give you my absolute favorite,
please,
which is Last of the Mohicans.
Oh, very
Last of the Mohicans.
Nice.
Yes, that is my absolute favorite adventure movie. It's historical drama. It's based on the book, which is even better. But it's so much fun. And Daniel Day-Lewis is one of the main characters in this and the lead actor. And he's just it is a tour de force of cool awesomeness. All the actors are great in it.
I will have
you
to
need to see this film.
It was one on my list.
It is so much fun.
I think I was planning to see it at the theater, and then I got sidetracked and went to something else. Because I know I wanted to see it, but it became one of those lost movies. You know how every once in a while you
gotta go.
Now I will tell you this.
Yeah,
I have heard the
I
soundtrack.
know that. Joker was that way to me.
Did you finally get to see it?
No, still haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. I highly recommend that. Not an adventure movie. Not an adventure movie.
No, it's not even close. But unless you enjoy your adventures into the psychological destruction. But
I saw it for you. I saw it 5 times in theaters.
Thank you. Wow, that's like me and Gladiator. Another good adventure film.
I can name all the movies. I know I'm obsessed with the movie when I see it 5 times. I've seen, several movies like that, including the Star Trek from 2009. I actually went to see Joker, still in theaters, when I actually owned a copy. Because me and this guy went to one of those cheap theaters, and we do double
Really?
bills.
Wow.
Yeah, we do double bills, and he hadn't seen Joker yet. And I said, "Oh, I'll sit through Joker again." And so I told Mike, I went to see Joker again. He goes, "You own that? You just bought on Blu-ray last week." And I go, "Don't worry, I'll watch that too." Still haven't made him watch that, but no, I do know, I have heard the soundtrack to Last.
Well, the soundtrack's beautiful.
Yeah, I was very impressed by it. So I'm going to look for that one next time I see it. I'm picking it up with you in mind and putting it on. So.
I highly recommend it.
What else? Do you have any other ones you'd like to throw out there before we wrap things up?
I admit that I'm a big fan of Legend. Some people hate it, some people don't.
I saw it at theaters.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a beautiful looking film.
Yes, it is. It is a beautiful film. There are some things in it you're like, yeah, whatever.
I like that.
I love the original soundtrack.
Tom Cruise, if you recall, was just on the verge of becoming the superstar he was. Because if I recall, Legend came out at the beginning of the summer, and a little movie called Top Gun came out a couple days weeks or so later. Yeah, after, where Tom Cruise went from, just like, he was pretty good in Risky Business, to boom, we want him in everything. And I always thought what would have happened if Legend came out after that, because Legend would have been even a bigger hit, I think. And Tom Cruise is actually one of the weak moments in it for me. I liked that he tried it, though. Like, one thing I always love about Tom Cruise, he's not afraid to give it his all.
No, he will take chances.
Yes.
I think that's been, like, Days of Thunder was an example of one of those. That was a movie where he took a chance, and maybe it wasn't the biggest of successes, even though it got a Canada's Wonderland ride out of it.
It made money, because when he was like, like he could do a movie like Cocktail and make money. He
was in that zone where he couldn't do anything wrong.
Well, you know what? Tom Cruise did something that other movie stars, I don't know if they attempted or didn't. And I think that was the success of Tom Cruise, is that he went from audience kind of fun movie. He did like a Top Gun or a Cocktail. Then he would work with some name people, like he did The Color of Money.
Yes.
And then he'd work with Paul Newman, and he worked with, forgot the name of the actor, a big director directed that. Then he would do like Days of Thunder, which is a fun car movie. Then he would do Rain Man, where you're working with Barry Levinson, the director, and Dustin Hoffman. And he would go back and forth from doing, I don't know if this will be a big hit, but I'm working with a really talented director and some big name stars. And it worked, because Days of Thunder made a lot of money. Rain Man, people forget, not only won the Oscar, but it was the biggest grossing movie of that year, because it was.
Yes, it was.
Not an adventure film, but
not even close. But at the same time, it was a two brothers go on a road trip. That's very much the film.
Right, absolutely. And boy, you keep hitting my triggers today. Because my problem with, I love Rain Man, first of all. Let's get that clear.
I do too.
But my biggest problem with that movie is that Tom Cruise did not get a Best Supporting Actor nomination in that. And here's my reasoning why, and then we'll get back to adventure movies. Dustin Hoffman needs the Tom Cruise character to be that character. But Tom Cruise was basically a character all on his own. And he was a very defined character. He was this really immature, I want to be a success. I'm going to use my brother. And we actually see him change as a person. But it's a solid performance. You could have watched that character on his own. It just, the brother helped. where Dustin Hoffman needed the Tom Cruise character to work. And I still think it was a big mistake that he didn't get an Oscar nomination for that. I think it's one of his best roles. And I think it's one of his best characters. Like, it's not even a likable character, but
no, it's not a likable character.
A likable character. And I think that also helps with Tom Cruise. I think he's an actor that's, he's charismatic. You know, girls want to date him. Like, especially back in those days, you know, guys wanted to hang out with him. I remember a guy did an interview with him. I forgot where it was from, if it was Rolling Stone magazine. And this was later in his life, and he went into the interview saying, I'm going to get his secrets out. I'm not going to fall for Tom Cruise's charm. And he admitted that about half hour spending with Tom Cruise, he wanted to be Tom Cruise's best friend. Tom Cruise has a way of making you feel like you are the most important person in the room. He listens to you. He said he's very good at being a politician. You ask him a question, he'll answer it without answering it, and then you won't realize he didn't answer it until many days later when he's writing the article. He's like, he didn't answer that. He talked around it. But he said, I don't care. I'm with Tom Cruise, and he makes me feel great. Now, you mentioned Legend. I want to throw Willow into that. Are you a Willow fan?
I am a Willow fan.
Yeah, and this is George Lucas.
I like that
again.
film. Partially, yes. But it's also a fun film.
Right. See, that's my thing with Legend. I enjoyed the prettiness of Legend, but I didn't. You know what? I'm going to have to rewatch Legend. I think I may have owned it because it is pretty, and I love Tim Curry's little horny guy.
Yeah, Tim Curry is just a tour de force in that.
Yeah. But Willow is a fun movie, even if it's totally Star Wars in medieval times.
And yeah, well, given who they was behind the camera and stuff, it makes sense. But it was fun, and it was a good story, and they had good characters.
Right, but even
things happened in it.
When I saw it, I kept thinking, okay, Willow's Luke Skywalker, Matt Mardigan is definitely Han Solo. You got the two little sprite things, which are kind of like R2 and C-3PO. You have your Obi-Wans, you have your Princess Leia. But I didn't care. I'm enjoying it. Yeah. I'm kind of excited that they're going to make a TV show about it, but I'm nervous as well.
Yeah, because it's owned by Lucasfilm and Disney now, I have considerable concerns about stuff. Because let's not kid ourselves, it's been pretty much hit and miss with what they've produced of late, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I love The Mandalorian. I'm having a lot of fun with that. But I just,
yeah, no.
I want to know who's involved with it.
They keep talking about like a fifth Indiana Jones movie, and I'm actually happy when I hear they keep pushing it off, because I know Harrison Ford's getting older and older, and eventually they're going to have to either reboot it or they're not going to use him. So I'm kind of relieved that they're going to leave it, because I just don't think it's going to be, the original trilogy, or even, I actually don't even think I'll get Crystal Skulls.
No, I don't either.
No,
Disney seems to not have the same care with movies that it once did, which is really sad. Because they used to do some incredible work. They used to do some incredible work. Like just look at the movies that Disney just brought out in the 90s, and like people still talk about them. They still love them. Little Mermaid. Beauty and the Beast, my personal favorite, Aladdin, which is a good adventure movie all on its own.
It is. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie.
It is a fun movie.
Fun. Yeah.
I still have my copy of that.
I even like Dick Tracy.
Yes, that. I like Dick Tracy as well.
I like that more. That falls into the Legend. I think it's pretty. And I think Warren Beatty and Madonna are really well cast in that,
Yeah, I got into that more because I was in this sort of 30s pulp fiction, not really pulp fiction, but pulp novel thing. And so, movies like that, Sky Captain, World of Tomorrow,
I love that movie.
Their adventure film.
You know, I love the Max Fleischer
Shadow.
Superman cartoons, and that's what that movie reminds me of. Those
Yes, I completely
Max
agree with you.
Fleischer style, like, oh, it's such a beautiful, like, I don't know if I love the actual movie, but I remember my eyes are being made love to right now.
Yeah, it was visually stunning. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And they had fun. They had fun with it.
Yeah.
And you can tell that from watching it.
If we're going to mention Disney movies from the 90s that fall under adventure, Rocketeer.
Yes, absolutely.
Ooh, applause, too.
Yes, we got to do Rocketeer.
I just rewatched that a couple of months ago, and that is still a fun movie.
Oh, yeah. Timothy Dalton's so good in that. He's so much fun.
Pre-Bond, I believe, too.
No, that's post-Bond. That's
Is it
post-Bond.
post-Bond? Did he have a Bond?
It's post-Bond.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was in the 80s. Yes, yeah. Sorry.
Those were the last. His was the late 80s.
That's right. That's
So
right.
he would have been fresh off Bond.
Right. And that's why he was probably
License to
cast
Kill.
in that. Because he was a name for himself at that point.
Yeah.
Now, do you consider
And he was
the Bond
good.
films
And
adventure?
yes, I most certainly do. In fact, as a Bond
do.
aficionado,
You
you can't not include Bond as adventure.
Well, for me, I find sometimes the Bond movies are hard to follow. I can't follow who's a double agent, who's a triple agent. But I can sit back and enjoy the action sequences.
Well, I think talking of Timothy Dalton, his were particularly action films.
Yes.
You look at some of the ways that The Living Daylights was staged, and it's not just that it's action. It's cool action. You know, the whole idea. If people, I don't know if people have seen it, but spoilers if you do. But
Living Daylights.
Eventually, they don't have a car, they don't have anything, and they escape in a cello case. Using the cello case as the toboggan down the hill.
Now, that is one of the movies that definitely was inspired probably by the Indiana Jones films.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because to me...
And I'm pretty sure Willow ripped that off as well.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Because Temple of Doom had the air mattress out of the plane. The raft, the air mattress.
The raft,
air mattress. So it was similar. So, but you know what? Living Daylights is probably in my top 10 favorite Bond movies. I actually really liked it.
It's a great fun film.
And I think Timothy Dalton doesn't get enough love because I think he actually brought kind of the sexiness back to Bond a bit too.
I would agree.
Because Roger Moore was getting very old.
Yeah.
Even Roger Moore was saying, am I getting a little old to be doing this?
Yeah. You watch him in his last film with Grace Jones. You're like, this guy's a little creepy.
I know. And like, so Timothy Dalton kind of brought the spryness back to him. And but I think it was Timothy Dalton around the era when they were starting to do he's only going to sleep with one woman per movie.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Because they'd always like Connery and Moore always had a couple at the beginning, and then there was
the air hostess or whoever.
But I remember in the 80s they tried the whole let's keep them like monogamous at least for one movie each. Anyhow, Owen, I had a great time.
Although to be fair,
pardon?
No, don't worry about it.
No, I was saying I had a great time talking adventure movies. I hope that people hear some of the titles and we inspired them to go look for them in their library here, like in their own library, or maybe check out like bargain shops to get them, or if you have to use a streaming service, by all means, relive them too. But I hope we've inspired some people to like, oh, I haven't seen The Rocketeer or Legend in ages. So I really hope we have done that. And they are fun movies. And if you're not in the Christmas spirit, hey, they'll keep a smile on your face. So you'll get
Go see The Rock.
What?
Go see The Rock.
Yes. Or anything Rock Dwayne Johnson is in. No. Not everything. Please, Baywatch is not an adventure and not worthy of comedy, in my humble opinion. Owen, thank you for coming on. I hope you didn't mind just being audio today. People have got that picture of you ingratiated. So if you're out today and people recognize you, be afraid because this won't have aired then.
Well, they may know me for other reasons, and that's a
There you
totally different
go.
conversation.
And hopefully we will get you back very soon and talk some more movies or any other kind of stuff. I hope you had a good time.
I did. I had a great time. This is fun.
All right. And Corda's got some editing to do, so we better wrap it up right now. And thank you for watching. And I hope you do get inspired watching some of these films. And let us know what you think about the HBO Max thing in our comments. And tell us some of your favorite action adventure movies, because you might remind us to, hey, maybe I should check that one out again. Or maybe I haven't seen it in a long time, like me, going to be looking for Last of the Mohicans now, because Owen mentioned it and reminded me, yeah, I should get around to seeing that. Anyhow, have a great day. Thank you, Corda. Sorry that we didn't get your face on screen as much, but I know that made you happy.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Well, you get to editing now. No more sitting back and relaxing. Anyhow, have a great day, and thank you for watching.